Episode 42 of the Interpretation Station is call to order. Welcome, everybody. How are you all? I hope you've all had a good Easter weekend. Happy Easter to you. Hope you're feeling rested, relaxed. I've been taking it, well, I was going to say I've been taking it easy, but I've had quite a stressful weekend. I'll reveal more to you about the stress in a later episode. It's quite funny, actually, but you'll see. Anyway, I thought to myself this morning, better knock out another wham bam. Thanks for the last episode for the Interpretation Station fan club, though. It's Monday. It's always a good day to do that sort of thing. So the text we're going to be using today, again, it's one I put up on the LinkedIn page a couple of weeks ago. It was dated, so the statement, it was delivered on the 3rd of March this year. It was at the Human Rights Council. So it's a statement by Peru, and it was in an interactive dialogue with the Special Rapporteur on human rights defenders following up to a visit to Peru in March 2020. So yeah, we've got Peru coming up today. I've been to Peru. I love Peru. It was very nice. The thing is, whenever I think of Peru, the first thing that always springs to mind, for all you football fans out there, is a match that, yeah, I would have been 1 year old at the time when it was played. It would have been the 1978 World Cup in Argentina, Peru versus Scotland. Scotland were expected to thrash Peru, and yeah, well, Peru won 3-1, and it gets played a lot on the Scottish TV for some reason, that match, and that's always, I can't help it. When I think of Peru, that's the first thing that comes to mind. Peru beating us 3-1 in the World Cup. Anyway, I've been to Peru, and it's a smashing place. Arequipa, great little town. So anyway, if you now, after that little aside, if you now look at the screen, and we'll take you through this statement. And there's quite a lot of stuff here, especially actually in the first paragraph, as you will see. So this is taken from the middle of the statement, okay? They've already, this is the second page of it. And okay, so the first thing that I've noted here, okay, this is something, as I say, I think I've mentioned this in previous episodes. This is an acronym for Personas Defensoras de Derechos Humanos. More and more, well, obviously the set solution for that is human rights defenders. And as I say here, the acronym HRD is being used increasingly. So again, this is just good to remind you of this. If you hear HRD, or rather you can use HRD to describe human rights defenders. Now, the next, this is actually one thing I want to look at before we go further, that I haven't actually marked in the text, okay? Se estableció el registro de situaciones, etc., etc. Now, why do I mention this? Now, if you'd watched my last episode, my last tutorial from Spanish into English, maybe about a month ago, 3 weeks ago, and it was on Cuba, and it was submitted to me by the one and only, the head of the Interpretation Station fan club worldwide, His Excellency and Plenipotentiary, Mr. Dwayne Parker. You remember Dwayne? You got to remember Dwayne. This is Dwayne.
Hey, Interpretation Station, thanks for this super cool water bottle. Now when I'm out here getting in some exercise, I'll be able to stay hydrated, and it'll also remind me to go home and get in some interpreting practice. Thanks.
So in that tutorial, we looked at ways to deal with Spanish sentences that begin that go straight into the verb. Okay, so okay, forget about in October the 2020. Imagine a sentence just that se estableció el registro de situaciones, and we discussed that were sort of 3 ways you could deal with it. All right. The first way is you turn the verb into a sort of noun, and you say something along the lines of, there was the establishment of a register on risk situations for human rights defenders. That's the first way. So that could work. There was the establishment. It sounds a bit clunky in English, but it works. Then there's obviously the old favorite technique, which is probably the one that I lean to most, which is weeing. Yeah, it's weing, which involves basically just turning that se estableció into we, saying we established a register on risk situations on human rights offenders, and which works in this case. And the third and final way is to wait for the noun. You sit and you wait it out. This is probably the neatest way of doing it for the listener to hear, and you wait to hear what the noun is. And the noun is kind of the is el registro. Okay, you say the register was established. Now, the problem in this case with waiting and seeing is what is actually the noun? The noun actually, I mean, it's not just el registro, but rather it's the registro de situaciones de riesgo de personas defensoras de derechos humanos se estableció. So it's really all of that is what was established. So that would perhaps mean you'd have to say the register of risk situations for HRDs was established. You have to keep that was established in your memory all the way till the end of the title of that report, because it's a title of a register, in fact. Now, you could get around it here by saying the register was established on risk situations for HRDs. That's one way of getting around it. But that's the trouble with the wait and see method, is you don't quite know how long that nominative is going to be, because theoretically that nominative in this case is that whole registro de situaciones de riesgo. So that's so obvious, and then you have to look maybe at ways of getting around it. One way, as I say, would be to say, okay, the register was established on risk situations. Now, the we solution that I would probably have used, now obviously that you can also run into trouble there with the we, but this what he's saying here comes in the context of so it's the Peruvian delegate, and he's listing all the things that Peru has done, and I'm going to tell you. So in the previous paragraph, he talks about as follows. He says, okay, the protocol is a protocol. It allows the cohesion of actions between various public institutions, such as the Interior Ministry, the National Police, the public prosecutor, the ombudsman, the regional governments, among others. It establishes an early warning procedure to respond to threats and attacks against HRDs. And this is activated at the request of a person threatened or who is aware of a risk. So the point is that they're talking, it's in the context of the Peruvian delegate listing all the things that Peru has done. Okay, so you already have that context of, what we have done. So it's you can make a fair guess that it's going to continue along those lines. And that's why, as I said, for example, would probably have gone in this case, I would have said in October 2020, we established. I would have, from the context, boasting about everything that we as the Peruvian state has done, the likelihood is that it's going to be a we. Okay, so it's always good to study those little cases like that. Okay, moving on back now then to what was noted. Now, gremios empresariales. Now, this is interesting. So here I've given you trade unions, I said. Usually with, gremios, sindicatos, it tends to be pretty similar, trade unions. Now, on subsequent reflection, it's perhaps not entirely the same thing. I think you could certainly get away with saying trade unions in this case, but really gremios empresariales are like associations of businesses. It's more private sector. It's the idea of, the guilds, if you like. Maybe gremio and guild is more of a closer, really, to sort of reflecting the idea of gremio. But so it's like, associations of, whatever it may be, small businesses, and so on. Again, but I think trade union, you could say it and it would be fine. But I think it's good to be aware of that difference between the trade unions, which perhaps you'd think of, like the teachers' unions, nurses' unions, etc. Whereas the gremios are more like the sort of the unions of actual businesses. Es un instrumento destinado a la prevención y permite acopiar. Okay, so here I've said, un instrumento destinado a la prevención. So you could just basically say it's a prevention instrument. That would be one way of synthesizing it much quicker. And, okay, y permite acopiar y gestionar. Now, and then here, okay, Sometimes in English you have to add words to make the sentence flow. Okay, so I'm saying here that it is an instrument. It is a prevention instrument, and it allows us to gather and manage information. So if you're going to say it that way, you need to introduce the it before the allow and the us after it. And you have some of the this this is one of these instances. It's very straightforward. You understand fine well what it means, but it can throw you when in English you have to add in these little words, because obviously in Spanish when you say permite, you don't need to say us or me. In English when you say and it allows, you need to have an object. You need to say it allows us. It allows you to do something. It doesn't sound right if you don't have that object. Okay. Another example, sort of like that, is when in Spanish they talk about agradecer, and they say agradecemos el informe. So in Spanish, literally, they can thank the report. Okay, but in English that doesn't sound right at all. You need to thank somebody. You need to introduce you. We thank you for the report. And so if you're early on in maybe in your career and you're not used to that, that can sort of throw you off course. Something simple like that can throw you off course. So with permita, another option you could just say here is, it's a prevention instrument for gathering and managing information. Just that for actually pretty much does the job of permitir. So, if you're stuck. So bear that one in mind. Now, what información contrastada? So we've got verified or corroborated information, one or the other. And this bit again, as I say, all the interesting stuff comes in the first paragraph. Patrones de afectación que enfrentan las personas defensoras. Now, when I did this in the actual meeting, and it did rather throw me. I didn't really understand what they were getting at here. And I think I said, their impact on human rights defenders. So again, sometimes you have to sort of paraphrase. It's not. You have to just make you sometimes have to make the sentence just sound natural. And I subsequently asked my secret contact, who is occasionally provides work on the LinkedIn group going into Spanish. I'm not allowed to reveal her or his name, but I asked the person in question how he would render this, and he said, and they said, it's vague in this context. It could refer to their workload of human rights defenders, or where they provide their services, or something along those lines. So I think even in the original Spanish, it's not really entirely clear. So again, it's an example of where you sort of need to think a little bit on your feet and just make sure that what you say sounds it's like it's in the right context. Okay. On to the next paragraph. Okay, la lucha contra la impunidad. Again, this is one of my favorite sort of verbs, really. Combating impunity tends to be the best collocation for that. Again, just to remind you, if I just keep reminding you time and time again, it'll just become just gradually engraved in your mind. That's why I do this sort of thing. La defensa pública de víctimas. Okay, so that's again an important term when it comes to sort of legalese, sort of this sort of language in the legal sphere. So that's the ombudsman. It's not really the public defender. That doesn't sound right in English. It's the ombudsman. Asistencia técnico legal gratuita. Okay, so I put in here free of charge. Okay, just because it sounds a little bit better here than free legal technical assistance. I think it's good to try and get in that of charge in English to sound that bit smoother. All right, so free of charge technical and legal assistance. And patrocinio in this context would be support. Often at the UN, when they talk about patrocinar una resolución, that's sponsoring a resolution. But in this case, it's again providing support, providing assistance to people who are in trouble with the law and who can't really afford to pay for their own defense. Okay. Elaborando. So again, it's always just good to remind you of a solution for elaborando. Certainly, you want to avoid using the cognate. You don't want to be elaborating a national action plan. That sounds very nasty in English. So to draw up or to devise one of those, for example. Empresas y derechos humanos. So this is, as I say here, it's a set expression here. Business and human rights. There's a whole I mean, I think that once a year there's a whole week-long meeting on this subject, actually, on the whole question of business and human rights, or the way business impacts on human rights. So that's kind of a set expression. Another set expression here, organizaciones de la sociedad civil, civil society organizations, and there you have the possible acronym of CSOs, which is a good acronym to have. And again here, so this whole paragraph, what I was just saying about that week-long meeting once a year, this is all part of it. Actividades empresariales, like business or commercial activities. Again, so I can't remember the exact title of the meeting. It's something like business and how business and commercial activities affect human rights, something like that. But remember it as this: actividades empresariales, as either business activities or commercial activities. Enfatizando la importancia. Just to remind you again, this is a good solution for enfatizar, different to just emphasizing or stressing. So to underscore, that really carries some weight to it, that word. La importancia que el Perú le brinda. So it's good to remember the collocation with importance. For the most part, I think attaching importance is a good verb to collocate with importance. Fortaleciendo el Estado peruano. So to consolidate, I think, is the best solution here. More better than maybe to bolster or to strengthen. I mean, both of those are fine. So, but consolidate, I think, it works best. And here this is in favor de la protección de defensores. So it just means to, doesn't it? In order to consolidating the Peruvian state to protect human rights defenders. Somos conscientes de los desafíos que aún tenemos por adelante. This is one of those classic phrases, the challenges that lie ahead, the challenges in the future. I like challenges that lie ahead. Old favorite here, okay, la pandemia del COVID-19. If the speakers, I can't now remember how fast the speaker was going. I'm pretty sure it was a recorded statement, though. I don't think, I think he was probably going quite quickly. Just to sort of remind, you can drop one of these elements here. The devastating impact of COVID, the devastating impact of the pandemic. I'm repeating myself here, but everyone knows what COVID or the pandemic is, and you don't even need the 19. COVID. I mean, no one's really been complaining about COVID-18 or COVID-20 anytime these days, are they? Okay, corregir prioridades, redoblar esfuerzos. So I've gone here for corregir. I don't think we say to correct priorities. I think maybe you would reassess priorities, realign priorities. You could maybe even reprioritize. And then there's my favorite cliche. Build back better. I'm not going to say anything sarcastic this time. Okay, I do say most annoying cliche of the 21st century. Yeah, got to remember that. Build back better. Poner en el centro de nuestros esfuerzos. That just essentially means to focus on. You don't need to worry about placing it in the center of our efforts. Okay, all those four words just effectively mean to focus our efforts on protection. Coming to the final paragraph then here, en la que tenga plena vigencia el Estado de Derecho. So, okay, usually with plena vigencia, it's talking about laws having coming into Estado vigente, coming into force, coming into effect. I think you could get round this in this sentence by just saying so where there is full-fledged rule of law. So here you're in a sort of similar situation to what we're talking about at the beginning, where the verb comes first, or the noun comes after the verb. And, I guess you could say where the is full effect for the rule of law. It sounds a bit sounds a bit ugly though. So this is one way you could get around. Obviously, here again, you could wait. You could say you could wait for the tenga plena vigencia. And okay, you hear what the noun is. So the rule of law, where the rule of law is fully in effect. That could be, you could do it that way. But I think this sort of sums up perhaps best where there's fully fledged rule of law. Les aseguramos que, so a good, just rest assured, we say in English, isn't it? I mean, you could say we can assure you, but I think in English the most, often these statements at the UN, at the end, it's often the delegate, the state saying, look, we're gonna stick by you, whatever. You can be confident and rest assured of basically having our support. It's a device that is often left till the end. So here, rest assured that Peru will continue. And then here, so desplegando y articulando esfuerzos. Again, rather a mouthful here, and that whole mouthful of 4 words here, that can all just be boiled down to that lovely word strive. So strive is one of my favorite words, as I've said here. Strive is a great word which you can use 9 times out of 10 instead of more clunky phrases like we are doing our utmost to, or we are going to great lengths. Okay, that's exactly what. Maybe not as much as 9 out of 10, but let's say 6 out of 7. So strive can really get you out of can get you out of a jam a lot of the times. So Peru will continue to strive to cumplir con nuestros compromisos. Again, it's always good to remember a couple of alternatives for cumplir con, to honor, to deliver on our commitments. That's a favorite collocation, to deliver on, which is worth remembering. Okay, so there you have it. Wham, bam, thank you, Roland. There's a lot of detail in that one page, actually. What I will do is in the description box, I'm also going to try and find the original statement. So maybe you can actually practice it how it came on, and I'll take it from the UN digital recordings page. I'm going to start featuring that now in the Wham Bam Thank You Roland statements. I'm going to try and find the original recording. So in addition to watching me, you can go and actually practice it yourself with some of the solutions that I offer you. Yeah, that's about it as well. I hope you've enjoyed this episode. If you have, please do give me a like, press the thumbs up button, share it also, share it on your LinkedIn page or whatever, or on your Facebook, wherever, if you found it helpful, if you want to share it with your friends. Subscribe, don't forget to subscribe if you're watching the shows and you're benefiting from them. And yes, well, that's about it for today. It's been a pleasure, as always. And I'll see you later on in the week with some more fun French, Russian texts. Another tutorial should be coming out soon. So enjoy the rest of your holiday. And all I have to say is that episode 42 of the Interpretation Station is adjourned.
The train is now leaving the Interpretation Station. We hope you enjoyed your visit. Until next time, folks.